They're basically like the ancient politicians of the during Christ's time. They obeyed the law of Moses, which was the law passed down, which is the Ten Commandments and all that Moses had when when they were in the wilderness. So they're very strict, rudimental, and straightforward thinking men who believe in the Mosaic law and nothing else. And also there was this other law that they have. It's called the traditions of the elders, or the oral law. And the oral law was described as it was a law, it was a quote unquote law that was passed down from Moses to Joseph throughout the judges and then to the Pharisees by word of mouth. So think of it, the oral law, as the world's longest game of telephone. That's probably still going on right now. I don't know. But when you play telephone, you don't hear exactly what you heard before, and you pass that around the wrong thing, or you're selective in what you hear. So because of that, the Pharisees were selective in what they felt was essential and not essential to the word, which we can see this also in Matthew chapter 15, 1 through 20, where the Pharisees are trying to stump Jesus Christ, asking about where they're trying to stump Jesus Christ in their views on cleanliness. So for them, they saw that their way was correct, and then Jesus Christ, when Jesus Christ stepped into the picture, they saw him as someone who was trying to bring about a division for them. They saw him as someone who was about to cause a commotion in the temple. So their treatment to him was terrible, but in the end, the Pharisees, being men who knew the truth, they knew that Jesus Christ is who he says he is. But for them, they were hard at heart to actually accept it. There's two things. There's things like knowing the truth and accepting the truth. Like, I know that the Texans suck. Sly knows it too, but he can't accept it. I love you, man. I am back to the Bible. I'm just an example, just to say that. Okay. Okay, yeah, the Pharisees knew, let's be real, the Pharisees have all their life, they've studied the Bible. They knew what was to come. They knew who Jesus Christ was. They knew that he was. They accepted the truth. They in their hearts, deep down their subconscious, they must have accepted that Christ is. But just the fact that they knew who he was doesn't mean that they accepted it. And because they didn't accept it, their treatment towards him was terrible. I mean, that's why they plotted against him, and they arrested him. And the funny thing, the thing, and if you read someone read Mark chapter 14, 48 to 50. 48 through 50.
Am I leading a rebellion, said Jesus, that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. Then everyone deserted him and fled.
Thank you. Okay. As you can see in Mark, at that point when they're arresting him, they knew who Jesus Christ was. They knew Jesus Christ was a peaceful man, a guy that doesn't want to start trouble. And yet, when they arrested him with bats and clubs. They knew that none of those things were needed. But what does that do? When people see Jesus Christ being arrested so violently, that creates intention. That creates a view. They say, okay, if Jesus Christ is seen being dragged off like this, maybe he's not such a good guy that we know. They're destroying Jesus Christ's credibility by setting the scene to make him look like a violent offender. And then, when he was condemned to death, they mocked and ridiculed him, asking him to prophesy, which was just more example of them toying around with Jesus. So this is how Christ was described by the Pharisees. Now, for us in our world today, as Christians, we're known that we're not going to be loved by the world. They're going to hate us because Christ was hated. So the world, no matter where you are, they're going to try to make you stumble. They're going to make you want to fall and feel like that you're not really who you say you are. And then we have certain Christians who are exactly like the Pharisees, who are selective in their obedience to the word. Like, God says, give this much. I will give, how about I give this and not that? We're selective in what we are because we're selfish people by nature, especially in the generation we are. And what we end up doing is that once we're selective in obeying the word, we've switched the word into the word being made for us. Think of a puzzle. Like, if you have a big puzzle right now, and the puzzle is you as a whole, and in the center of the puzzle is the word of God, is the word. And when you're fitting the final piece, and the word is the final piece, and you're not able to fit the word in, you try to cut the word out, cut certain parts of the word so it adjusts and fits into your lifestyle, into what you want. Whereas that's how some of us see the word, as being the word fits into our schedule, it fits into our lifestyle. Where it should be the other way around. The word, we're supposed to fit into the word. We're supposed to cut ourselves out, cut parts of our lives out in order to fit into the word, to fit perfectly with him. Because if we accept Christ, are we not new creations? If we're new creations, then why do we continue to try to take certain things out of the way of the word? Which leads me to my second question. When it comes to the world, it's out to hate us, but we still have a second question.